Welcome into OutKick the show. I'm your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fantastic Mondays. What a weekend it was. Absolute insanity all over the place. I am right now live in Milwaukee inside of the crazy security that is now in place. And my goodness, it has been already, it feels like a heck of a week, and we're sitting here on Monday. But obviously what everybody wants to talk about, probably many of you have already seen my live reaction to what happened on Saturday, the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. I've got a lot of thoughts about it. I want to walk you through all of that. And I'll start here. I expected Saturday to just be a chill day. I was anticipating, I was with my friend Jonathan Hutton, who does the show for OutKick. He'd been telling me he wanted me to check out his new place. Went over there. We came upstairs, flipped on the television. He happened to put it on. And in real time, I saw them carrying Trump off the stage. We were about 2 minutes after the shots were fired. And then I thought Fox News did an amazing job. I believe Shannon Bream was the person leading coverage on what was supposed to be a relatively quiet Saturday as everybody was getting ready for the Republican National Convention. What happens then? I initially thought that something had happened, that Trump had had some sort of heart attack or whatever else. I wasn't aware of the shooting. Then immediately saw that. And my primary emotion, and again, many of you probably have seen that, is I was furious. I was angry. If you listen to Clay and Buck, if you follow me on Twitter, you know that I have been saying, and watch OutKick the show, it was inevitable to me that this was going to happen, that there was going to be an assassination attempt on Trump. You've got a dementia-addled patient, basically, in Joe Biden trying to run for president and fight off the wolves to replace him. You've simultaneously got all of the chaos with Trump having the lead in the polls. You know you're going to get a bounce from the VP. You know that everything is going to be working in his favor, and they don't have a plan. The lawfare, which I'll get to in a minute, Eileen Cannon, big decision earlier this morning here, dismissing the classified documents case. Biden's not a skilled politician, has never been, would never have done a very good job of telling his overall story and being able to come from a big deficit, which I think it's fair to say when you look at all of the different battleground states. So when you break all this down, it was inevitable that somebody was going to look at all that and decide the only way to retain power was to try to take out Trump. So I was and still am furious that this was able to happen. And I'm going to get into how the shooting happened. I think that's an important angle and aspect of this as well. But my first thought was anger. And if you saw me react in real time sitting there in Jonathan Hutton's apartment, he recorded me. We popped it out. I think 6 million people have watched that thing just on Twitter alone. I was angry. I still am angry that we ever allowed this to happen. But the reality is it was very predictable. And then to allow it to happen in the way that it happened, a guy 120 yards away on top of a roof that everybody saw was yelling at and asking, hey, get that guy. Why does he have a gun? What's going on there? It becomes even more infuriating to break all that down. Again, I'll get to that in a moment. But let's actually focus on what an incredible badass move it was from Donald Trump. The way he responded is, I think, the baddest ass thing we have ever seen from an American president in any of our lives. In real time, to say, wait, and then turn to the crowd and say, fight 3 different times while there is still blood on your face from a bullet that would have ended your life if it had been a half of an inch in another direction. And if he hadn't pivoted and turned at that exact moment I think it's the baddest ass thing we've ever seen an American president do. I cannot believe that was real. It felt cinematic. It felt Hollywood-like that could have ever occurred. And for his reaction in real time to be like that, I believe sealed the election. I really think it's almost impossible to respond to that, even if you hate Trump, even if you are a left-winger. I feel like that moment has become so iconic already, and we're only sitting here, 48 hours basically after it happened. It still feels so incredibly iconic the way that he responded. So and then the photos, the fist raised, the American flag in the background, not even going to focus right now on the left-wing failures, the CNNs of the world, that could have ended up happening as it did, and that his reaction could be what it was, is the baddest ass thing we've ever seen from an American president. So badass that if they had written that into a Hollywood script, I think many people would have said, no, we can't have that happen because it feels too unrealistic for someone to respond like that. Also ends all the arguments that people on the left have tried to make for a long time. Oh, Trump doesn't believe what he's saying. He's not really a fighter. He's a coward. That's over. And again, I think there are tons of people out there who are otherwise not Trump supporters that watched that and felt a stirring of American pride, the likes of which they have not felt in a very long time. I watched the video as many times as I can. Every time I watch it, I'm more impressed and more blown away by what a badass he was in that exact moment. To come within a half inch of his life ending and to immediately think in real time, I want everybody to know that I'm okay, and I want to send the message that the fight continues no matter what, that we're not going to allow anybody to take us out. This is the first time we've seen a presidential shooting since Ronald Reagan 43 years ago. I've never seen one. I was a year and a half old when that happened, so I have no recollections of it at all. Felt sick to my stomach, but also furious. But the primary emotion as I watched that video over and over again was immense pride in America, immense pride in Donald Trump, and a further belief that I will crawl on broken glass to cast my vote. They've tried to bankrupt him. They've tried to put him in prison for life. They've tried to now kill him, and he's still there fighting every single day for all of us. Remember, he's a billionaire. He never needed to do it. He could have been out there playing golf, hanging out with his grandkids. Instead, he saw America, what I think is accurately falling apart, and decided that he needed to be a major solution in his mind to the ills that were afflicting America. And I believe that Democrats deep down recognize that they are done now. I expect that what we will see is they're just going to leave Biden in now. All the talk to replace Biden, I think, is over because they recognize that he's a sacrificial lamb, and they recognize that there's no one out there that they want to put forward in the next 100 days to go out and try to beat Trump, when nobody's going to beat Trump. Trump is going to win in 2024 as long, and this is a big concern of mine, as we can keep him safe and as long as he is able to actually make it to the election, which is my primary concern at this point in time. I think Joe Biden is done. I think the Biden team knows it. Last night's address, double addresses from inside the Oval Office, thought were very weak. I tweeted, and I maintain this, that Biden should have, if he really wanted to dial back the intense pressure and toxicity of this campaign already, he should have ended the lawfare. He should have announced that he's pardoning Trump. He should have dropped the cases before Eileen Cannon did it in South Florida. He should have done it with the Jack Smith case in D.C. He didn't do either. I think he's a coward, Biden. I think he's a poor, feckless politician. I don't think he's particularly intelligent, adroit, or skilled at being able to actually make the case that he needs to in order to beat Trump head-to-head. And I think he's going to get smoked in this actual election. Now, the motivation of the shooter, I don't need to dive into the motive. If you try to take somebody's head off with a rifle, you're not a fan of that person. Joe Biden trying to say, hey, let's withhold all decisions on this. Has there ever been someone who tried to assassinate a political leader because they were a huge fan of them? Come on. This is an anti-Trump person. I think the likelihood is that they were infected with the toxicity of the past 8 or 9 years when people are trying to say, oh, Trump is Hitler. Look, that's always been a lie. I've told you that's a lie for 8 years. Buck and I have talked about this a great deal on the show. I feel like I know Trump. We've interviewed him 10 times. We've met him a lot face to face. You can disagree with him politically. Like you can disagree with any politician. The idea that he in some way is a modern day version of Adolf Hitler is the most ridiculous accusation and attack in modern American political history. But I don't think most of the people saying it, the Rachel Maddows, the Joe Scarboroughs, hey Joe, how about you not being able to do your show today? The Joe Scarboroughs of the world, they don't actually believe it, but some of their crazy followers do. And here's the pivot that's really difficult to make. If you truly believe that Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler, then there is absolutely no way to say in the wake of an attempted assassination, oh, this is unacceptable, we need him to get better. Because you're actually destroying your own argument. Because if you truly thought he was Hitler, you should actually stand behind it and say, yes, it is justified to kill him. Instead, immediately, they're painted into a corner, and they have to acknowledge that they don't even believe the Hitler arguments or the idea that democracy is going to end. I think this basically ends all of the arguments that Joe Biden can make. We're going to be back on abortion as the only real thing, because Biden's failed at the border, Biden's failed on crime, Biden has failed on the economy, Biden's failed on inflation, Biden has failed on keeping us out of war in Europe and in the Middle East. All he's got left is abortion, and Trump's not even very difficult when it comes to the abortion-related issue. Trump actually handles that really, really well. So again, I think this race, as long as Trump can be kept safe, is over. I think Trump is going to win comfortably. I think he's going to win some states that people aren't even talking about, whether it's Minnesota, whether it's Virginia, whether it's New Hampshire, whether it's New Mexico. I mean, outside of the larger battleground arenas. I think that is very likely to end up happening before all is said and done. I don't think this race is going to be particularly close. If you look at the gambling markets, which I like to do as much or more than the polls, Trump is now a 70% favorite at Polymarket to win this race. That is monster favorite territory, and it would suggest that it's not going to come down to just the battleground states of Wisconsin, where I am right now, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. So all of that is the immediate fallout of what happened with the attempted assassination, which, again, thankfully, Buck and I have spent a lot of time talking about. Can you imagine if that bullet had been 1 inch different? We're having a very different conversation right now. Also, can I mention this for a moment? We need people who are actually badasses to be protecting the President of the United States. We can't have women who are 5'4" and not tall enough to be able to shield a 6'2" man. I wouldn't feel comfortable if some of those Secret Service agents that we all saw trying to holster their weapons and trying to protect Trump were in charge of protecting me at a college football game. In fact, if my security detail showed up, and I do sometimes have security details for live television coverage, if my security detail showed up and it was women who were smaller than me, I would not want them to be my protectors. It is not an insult to women to say that the baddest ass people on the planet, the biggest, strongest, toughest, fastest dudes are all bigger, stronger, tougher, faster than women. We need badasses trying to protect the president, whether it's a man or a woman. Those women who couldn't holster their guns, those women who were running around and had no idea what was going on, they cannot be in protection scenarios with the president of the United States. We need to get back to the meritocracy. The best man or the best woman, every job doesn't have to be equity laden. There's no women that play in the NBA. It doesn't mean that women's basketball players shouldn't be able to make a living as professionals. There's no women that play in the NFL. That doesn't mean that women shouldn't be able to compete in flag football, right? The idea that there should be women in the Secret Service is crazy. It's bonkers. This whole DEI bullshit, sorry, I can't restrain myself here, era has to be ended. Bring back the meritocracy. The more important the job. If you look, how big you are is a huge part of how much you can shield the President of the United States. Did you see those smaller women? If you're 5'4" or 5'5" and you're trying to protect a 6'2" guy from getting shot, there's tons of time where Trump was exposed. Now, again, incredible bravery, incredible courage from Trump to behave as he did. But my goodness, we have to have better security, whether it's for Joe Biden, whether it's for RFK Jr., whether it's for Donald Trump, whether it's for Hillary Clinton, Nikki Haley, whoever the future people are running for president of the United States. We can't ever allow this to happen. Okay, now, how did this shooting happen? How in the world did a guy climb onto the roof of a building roughly 120 yards away with a gun on top of a white building, readily visible, easy to see, and have an opportunity to kill the President of the United States and to kill a dad, a father, a firefighter? How did we allow this to happen? This is an inexcusable failure. By a half of an inch, maybe an inch at most, Trump still has his life. The fact that that shot was allowed to be taken, the fact that those shots were allowed to be taken, and that lives were stolen is completely and utterly unacceptable. How in the world was that permitted to happen? It is an all systems failure that was allowed to occur, that individual wasn't shot immediately, that individual wasn't seen trying to climb up onto the roof, that individual wasn't killed once he got up onto the roof. How did that happen? We need a full investigation of this. That is an all systems failure. Sometimes, I think this is important, sometimes people engage in behavior that is hard to predict. I'll give you an example. I've just been reading books about 9/11 to refamiliarize myself with that. The idea that someone was going to take over an airplane with box cutters, learn how to fly airplanes, fly them into buildings, the World Trade Centers, and also the Pentagon and Shanksville, PA, was really difficult to predict. Sometimes the imagination of an attack is so creative and outrageous that we can't conceptualize to protect for that until after it's already occurred. A guy climbing onto the roof of a building to try to kill someone is the most eminently predictable way to assassinate a president imaginable. That should never have been allowed to happen. A random 20-year-old dude who isn't even particularly skilled came within a half of an inch or an inch from killing the president of the United States. That is an all systems failure that has to be rectified. Again, completely unacceptable that that was allowed to occur, especially when all of these people at the Trump rally saw the guy and are screaming for the police to do something. How in the world did this sniper not take that guy out the minute that they saw him on top of the roof? All of it is thoroughly unacceptable, unbelievable that that could have ever occurred, is completely and utterly an all systems failure. Now, we have an investigation going on. The investigation is now being led by the FBI. That's the same group, the FBI, that is trying to put Donald Trump in prison for the rest of his life through the Department of Justice investigations that are going on. Now, Eileen Cannon, rightly, I think, dismissed that case. I can't believe no one else is screaming about this. It is straightforward, transparent, clear as day to me. You cannot have the FBI leading an investigation into the president of, potentially, former and future president of the United States' attempted assassination, while simultaneously trying to put him in prison for the rest of his life. It's a readily apparent conflict, the likes of which I cannot believe that everybody wouldn't immediately recognize. I can't believe I'm the only person pointing this out so far. Again, if Joe Biden really wanted to heal the nation, last night at his address, he would have ended all charges against Trump and said, let's have an actual presidential race based on debates, based on issues, as opposed to trying to put your chief political adversary in prison for the rest of his life. This is an untenable conflict. Everybody should be aware of it. And the fact that it's not being rectified is, to me, completely unacceptable. All right. I give credit to Judge Cannon for her ruling. She's been waiting for that for some time. I don't think that they're even going to be able to respond to it very well. I think she's right on the law, and it further solidifies the own goal nature of this complete lawfare failure by Joe Biden. Final thought here, and again, it's chaotic inside of this Milwaukee arena as you can possibly imagine here. It is the bravest, baddest ass reaction of an American president in any of our lives. There is nothing like it in terms of the iconic nature of Trump's reaction, throwing his fist in the air, the American flag billowing behind him. I was incredibly proud to be an American as I watched that reaction on Saturday. I'm looking forward to seeing how Trump speaks on Thursday to follow up on that. I think his reaction so far has been perfect, but make no mistake about it. This was brought on by 9 years of claiming that he's Hitler from the left. This was brought on by 9 years of if he wins, democracy is going to end. This is a direct result of the lies that have been told about Donald Trump, in my opinion. While I am incredibly proud of Trump's response and his bravery, the fact that we ever had a situation like this is utterly unacceptable. And there should be consequences, and I think there will be at the ballot box with the lies that have been told about Trump for all this time. A lot of people are waking up and realizing how dishonest much of the media has been. I am proud to see that happening. And I would encourage all of you, if you have any doubts at all about who you are voting for president, join me in voting for Donald Trump. Let's give him a landslide in 2024 and a mandate that we're going to make America great again, and that we still are the greatest country in the history of the world, a shining city on the hill. God bless America. God bless Donald Trump. And I hope we have a hell of a week here in Milwaukee. It's only Monday, but it already feels like it's been a full week. I'll see you guys all week long. I'll be on Martha McCallum a little bit later. I'm about to sit down. We're doing the show early today and do 3 hours of historic Clay and Buck show. Appreciate all of you. This has been OutKick the show. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP.